The House holding Attorney General Eric Holder in criminal and civil contempt of Congress. My next guest making an impassioned speech ahead of that vote.
Congress is right to pursue this no matter where it takes us. No matter which administration was in power and no matter what the facts are, we are right to pursue this. And we are wrong if we settle for anything less than all the facts.
Joining us now, the congressman you just heard, Trey Gowdy of South Carolina, member of both the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees, a leader into the Fast and Furious scandal. Congressman, great to have you with us. You couldn't have asked for much more. You have now a contempt of Congress charge, civil and criminal. Where do you go from here?
Well, Lou, thank you for having me on, and thank you for covering this issue with the skill and the depth and breadth that you have, or we would not have been here today, I don't believe. Where we go from here, I would trade all of it, Lou, for the documents. Right. This was never about holding the Attorney General in contempt of Congress. I started off that speech by saying it's a sad day. Yeah. I want the evidence. I want the documents. Where do we go from here? The criminal contempt portion goes to the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia. My suspicion is it doesn't go very far. The civil contempt portion of what we voted on goes to a federal judge in the D.C. District, and hopefully executive privilege will be defeated as it should be, and ultimately we'll get the documents and therefore the truth, but it won't be as quick as it could be if the Attorney General would just give us what we're asking for.
Give us all a realistic sense of the time that's going to be involved. These two citations will be moving contemporaneously, I presume. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The criminal will be referred to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He may or may not refer to a grand jury. The reality is that I'll try to be as fair as I can. I think the U.S. Attorney under the Bush administration did not refer those contempt citations to a grand jury either. I don't expect this U.S. Attorney to. I don't think we're going to know anything from these documents before November. That does not mean that Judiciary and Oversight are going to stop investigating. And we have other sources potentially for the documents. We're not stopping. It's just this particular subset of documents that we want. We're not likely to get it until after the election.
And the civil procedure, that's within your power and purview to move ahead to the federal district court. Which court? How soon? Realistically?
It'd be a federal judge in the D.C. Circuit. How soon? We would have to litigate executive privilege. Judges, I used to work for one. They have life tenure, so it's hard to hurry them up. They can take as long as they want. Again, I do not expect a resolution before November, but I can tell you this, to prove to you this never was a political exercise, even if there is a Republican come next January, we're going to pursue this with the same firm and vigor as we did with the current administration. I want the documents. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the Attorney General is. I want the documents.
And at this juncture, where does the investigation go? We know that the whistleblowers have turned over to your committee, to your investigators. I believe it is 7 applications for wiretaps, which carry with them a great deal of information. It's information that you all have been relatively constrained with in making public. Do you have other sources? Are you going well beyond what we know now?
Well, I hope we do. You know, I read an interesting article, I say interesting not in its truest sense of the word, in the Washington Post from an ATF agent named William Newell, who I haven't heard from in over a year before he was before a committee, and he was defending Fast and Furious. Well, if he can crawl out of the woodwork, perhaps agents who are critical of the operation will become emboldened and say, you know what, it's time for me to speak up too. We only have a couple of sources of information, the Department of Justice, who's the keeper of records, and whistleblowers who want to do the right thing and make sure we have all the evidence. I would hope anyone who has documents, I'm not interested in things that jeopardize investigations, but anyone who has relevant, salient documents, give them to the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. We'll be a good steward of it. It's not about politics. We just want to get justice for Brian Terry and his family.
As I read William Newell's comments in those published accounts today. I could recall vividly his appearance before your committee.
Me too.
Were you struck by any similarity in either tone, demeanor, or posture on it all?
Well, he did a very poor job of explaining how this investigation was ever going to work when I questioned him, because it never was going to work. Even if they'd done all the things they wanted to do, the notion that Mexico is going to extradite Mexican drug cartel leaders back to the United States for prosecution is tomfoolery. They're more likely to say, hey, send us your ATF agents who violated our gun laws. So I don't know where he got this newfound courage that this was a great investigation. That certainly wasn't the tact he took when he was before OGR, but maybe it's easier talking to a reporter than it is to former prosecutors on the Oversight Committee.
And perhaps timing has something to do with it all. Congressman?
Oh, never would that be, would it?
Congressman, it's great to talk with you always. Thanks for being here. Congressman Trey Gowdy.
Appreciate your help. Yes, sir.